Wow, I'm back. After a whole year of being gone from YouTube, I'm back from the dead with better audio, better writing skills. Call me a Saiyan the way I come back from the dead and I'm better than ever. Cool. So, what do I want to work on first? Right. I guess I should get to the reviewing that game now, should I? What's up, guys? It's Galaxy7 here, currently trying to get a name brand change to Xenzo. Back again for the 26th time, I want to say. Look, I don't have a gimmick here. No one-liner, no punchline. I got nothing. So I'm just gonna dive straight into it. Omori. The one goddamn RPG I just couldn't get myself into when it first started getting popular. It was always on my radar whenever I thought about games to play, but it was never like the first thing that came to mind whenever I wanted to play like a video game or something. I'm not gonna choose a goofy looking RPG over Final Fantasy X, okay? That's just not happening. In 2020, back when we were all in quarantine, my sister would always watch some random streamers play some random game over and over and over again. It felt like she was just watching the same crap. Most of the time, she wasn't even paying attention to it. However, there was one game, one that stood out from the rest. Omori. She constantly begged me and told me I needed to play this game. So I told her if I ever got the chance, I would check it out. Eventually, during the summer of 2021, I finally decided that I would get off my ass and look at the game. First, I looked on Steam and it was $20. Now, me personally, I'm not broke or anything, but I'm not spending $20 on a game that I'm not really interested in. So I was like, meh, whatever, and kinda gave up on it for a while. I tried to pirate it once, didn't work out, so I just gave up, okay? I gave up. We don't need to talk about that. Until one day, almost a year later, a man that many from my Twitch streams are familiar with, he came into my DMs, my group chats, and even to other friends and told them that Omori was peak fiction and it needed to be played. It was none other than Tetra. Yeah, out of all the people, it was Tetra who wouldn't shut up about the game. Constantly going, Omori the best game, or Hiro and Mari's relationship are so cute. That shit. So naturally, he was dick riding so hard, he was getting pregnant. I didn't want to get pregnant, so I avoided the game at all costs. Until 1 month later, Xbox started putting in work and started putting a bunch of games on the Game Pass. Still waiting for God of War. One of them being Danganronpa. Alright, it was Omori. So at this point, it felt like the heavens were like, nah, you finna play this game today. And started striking down, bolts of luck to lead me to Omori after 2 years. So then, somewhere in August, I went live on Twitch, and I began to play it. After playing through the entire thing, yeah, I have a lot to say. So now with all the background info done, let's just jump into it. Omori is about a young boy named Sunny who's about to move in 3 days. Apparently, 4 years ago, a tragedy involving his sister, Mari, occurred that resulted in her death. Because of this, Sunny locked himself in his home for 4 years, away from his friends, who were, all friends with him and his sister way back when. While Sunny spends his time in his house, he constantly dreams about something that the game calls Headspace, a dream world where his sister never died and his friends Kel, Aubrey, Hiro, and Basil never drifted apart. Basically, a world where everything remained somewhat the same with a weird factor added into it. Like, talking planets or animals. Pluto best boy, don't fight me on this. Now, if you're wondering where the name Omori comes from, it's actually the name of Sunny's dream counterpart. For some reason that seems beyond me, instead of Sunny being there, he replaces it with Omori. Because... hang on, let me look this up. Mari's favorite song. No, I just spoiled myself! No, 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 no! Omori also happens to be the name etched into Mari's favorite piano. You know, she loved playing it before she died. Eventually, Sunny decides that he should go outside after Kel bangs on his door asking him to come out and hang out with him. Once he does, you have two options. One is to walk outside to greet him, and the other is to not answer the door. Answering it will continue the game normally and start Sunny's process to heal himself along with everyone else. The other option, according to my friend, leads to the Kikomori ending. Basically, it's the bad ending. Also, I heard that there are 3 bad endings, and I'm planning to get them all on Christmas, so stay tuned for that. So, naturally, being the real Chad I am, I chose to answer the door. And so, I began to walk around town and interact with everything I could. As Sunny and Kel walk around, you start to notice how much the characters have changed within the 4 years. Basil is more of a bitch, Hiro went to college, Mari is, dead, and in her grief, Aubrey became a delinquent. Now, as the protagonist, you work to fix your relationship with your friends and help them get over Mari's death while getting over it on your own. Summary done? Good. Now let's get to the meat and bones of this video. I have a lot to say about this game, so before I get into the negatives, let's do the positives, since there are so many of them. First off, the story. Omori is heavily reliant on its story and characters. I hate to bring this game up again, but unlike Danganronpa, where it relies mostly on its characters, because, its story is so repetitive, Omori's goal is to help Sunny get over the death of his sister, one that he actually caused himself and is represented by this shadowy figure that follows him everywhere. We'll get into that later. The way they showcase this is actually beautiful. Before showing you the real world, you wake up as Omori. The first thing you see is a completely white room called White Space, filled with nothing but a black light, a sketchbook with some questionable drawings, a laptop that warms your lap, a black cat named Muo that's waiting for something to happen, and tissues to wipe your sorrows away. After obtaining a knife, you walk into this strange world with your friends and begin to meet all the characters and learn their relationship with one another. The characters being Aubrey, Kel, Hiro, Mari, and Basil. Now, this first part has its pros and cons. Pros. The first part does an excellent job showing you how close the group are with one another, and how they also interact with the world. Makes everything that comes next feel more real and alive. Like, these aren't just characters, these are people going through the grief most feel when it comes to the death of a close friend. Cons. This beginning of the game is way too long. Like, I get it, for the reasons stated in the pros, it's to set up the characters and the world. But at the same time, after Basil got took in the dream world and I woke up as Sunny, I thought I had finally gotten through the prologue of Omori. But when I checked the menu, I found out I was still in the prologue! This, as you can tell, felt extremely tedious as it makes it hard to actually get into the game when you're starting off. Sure, after Basil gets took and you get jump scared, it feels like it got interesting. Even when you spawn back into the white space or whatever and stab yourself to wake up. That grabbed my attention. I loved that. But everything after that is just... why am I playing this? I kid you not, for 3 whole streams where I played Omori, I titled the streams Mid-Mori, because the game was just doing nothing to hold my attention for 5 seconds. I could have actually completed the game sooner if it really weren't for the slow pacing in the beginning. After getting past that, there's really nothing completely wrong with the game. It managed to grab my attention after I saw what happened to all the characters in the real world. When I was done with that though and I got back to the dream world, it just pissed me off more because it felt like, just more filler. There was nothing really going on that made me go, wow, this game is great. Let me pull out some tea and keep playing. The Omori segments sucked. Enough said. The only time the Omori parts actually grab my attention is when you're in the waterfall and you speak to certain parts of the area, where you can see how the real world and its reality is starting to leak into Sunny's dreams, aka Headspace. When you speak to them, they all sort of chastise you for trying to forget the real world, like, you bitch, how could you forget your sister's death? How could you even ignore it? Fucking that sort of thing. Something that really sent a chill down my spine is when you talk to a group of seaweed that leads to a dead end. It's kind of just sitting there. If you walk up to it and try to talk to it, it'll say, "The sun shined brighter when she was here," which is the same line that's engraved on Mari's tombstone in the real world. When I saw this on stream, I almost cried, for reasons I'll get into in a minute. After you go through some more Omori bullshit shenanigans, you soon start to realize that Headspace exists so that Sunny can ignore the reality of the world around him, that his subconscious is telling him to
wake up to reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world.
It also tells us one thing that I also felt was an extremely amazing detail. You see, the way you save in Omori was kind of strange at first. Save spots are wherever Mari decides to set a picnic up. So for example, before a boss or during a dungeon, that sort of thing. But the thing is, Mari doesn't ever show up in the party. Not once. She stays with the picnic and acts as your like save spot or whatever, you know? Where you can heal and save. Why? Well, the game tells us that Sunny actually gave her that specific role. That way she wouldn't die or get hurt like the other players do. That's really, really sweet. Especially in the context that this is just a 15, 13-year-old kid who just wants to stay in the reality that his sister is still alive and wants to make sure that she doesn't get hurt in the dream world. Just like she did in the real world. Even though he can kind of just will her to come back to life, but we're just gonna ignore that. This game's storytelling also has a lot of symbolisms. One of the more obvious ones being this ghostly figure that follows Sunny around everywhere. Originally, you'd assume that this is a representation of grief always looming over him, that he'll never be truly happy because of the death of his sister. However, after you continue to progress through the game and figure out that it was Sunny who killed Mari and that Mari didn't kill herself, you learn that, the figure is not only a representation of his grief, but also his regret, and the number one thing causing all of this, Mari, which is actually extremely clever too. While I may have some issues that the reveal that Sunny killed Mari and that she didn't kill herself, I can also accept it more because looking back on it, the signs were always there. The reason why he was so afraid to walk down the stairs in the beginning of the game was because he had accidentally pushed her down the stairs and killed her. The ghostly figure looms over him as regret. It's behind him. It's watching him. It's always just doing nothing but following him. But by doing nothing, it's just a painful reminder that he caused his sister's death. The design of the figure is also clever too. You see, the figure is just an oval with some spikes on the bottom. And just one eye in the middle. Which is pretty much the standard for regular ghosts. If you're just doing whatever, not being in detail or whatever. However, this design takes on a whole new meaning when you realize that the black stuff around the ghost are actually Mari's hair as she was hanging by the tree, with the eye peering through the hair and straight at Sunny. That is so clever. Most games in this genre are deep and, great. Granted. But that is what I call peak storytelling there. Meaning all the way down to the design choices, the game tries to illustrate its story and does it amazingly well. Now, what are the negatives? Well, there's only one. The rest of the cast feels underdeveloped. In a game like Omori, it doesn't really rely solely on its characters as much as a game like Danganronpa does. But at the same time, it would have been a nice touch. When I say this, I don't mean Omori, takes the side characters and gives them the big old fuck you. Everyone gets their time on screen, and they get their moments to get over the grief of Mari's death. But, I don't know, I just feel like more could have been done with them. Like, for instance, we learned for Aubrey that her father left her at a very young age and that her mother is assumingly neglectful and drunk. Aubrey is an extremely interesting character throughout the entire game, which I feel like could have been expanded on better. Saying this though, I also think that the story didn't really need any of that, seeing as that really wasn't the point of the game, nor was it the goal. And plus it would be hard and, it would make the game feel a bit bloated at times. The point of the game is to help Sunny get over the grief/guilt of killing his sister. So, I can forgive it. All in all, Omori is a game about getting over your past griefs and regrets and holds a dark secret underneath its colorful nature. Most know me as a sucker for mystery games, and yes, this game definitely hit my funny bone in terms of my preference. From the storytelling to the music, game design, and heart, Omori is a 10 out of 10 game.